What's going on, everybody? So today I'm re-uploading an old video that used to be on my main channel and has now been unlisted. This is a 2-hour-ish long breakdown of the first and so far only Ratchet & Clank 3 New Game Plus No Quit exploit, tool assisted speedrun. That's a mouthful. This is a historic run for our community, and I wanted to do what I could to preserve it, which is why I'm re-uploading it here. Now, before we begin, I wanted to address something. Now, things change over time, and Ratchet speedrunning is no different. In this video, you're going to hear me refer to the creator of this task as Nano Hologuise. Now, I wanted to say before we begin that Nano now goes by the username Leora Moon and uses she/they pronouns. I will be linking her information down here if you would like to see more of her work. And I wanted to give a special thank you to Leora for being kind enough and gracious enough to allow me to re-upload this old video, even though it may not be a representation of who she is anymore. Now, one last thing, please don't be weird in the comments about this. We aim to be respectful in this community. So regardless of whether you agree or disagree with someone's life choices, just remember that they're a human at the end of the day and they deserve kindness and respect. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Yo, Nan, are you there?
Yeah, I am, I think.
Yo, what's going on, dude?
Oh, fuck. Really, I'm great. I'm very tired, but I'm good.
Holy shit, dude. I can imagine. First off, I mean, obviously, I already said this, but congratulations, man. This is so fucking cool. This whole video is absolutely incredible from beginning to end, and I hope you feel incredibly proud of yourself and for all the hard work that you've done.
Big weight off my back, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, sort of just years of doing some stuff and then not really doing stuff, and I, may as well just get shit done.
Yeah, dude. Well, I'm glad that you finally had the chance to just sit down and crank it out. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't even know where to begin with this. Yeah.
Just start at the start.
Yeah, I'll just start right here. So, hold on, wait. With this menuing, there's like so much happening here. Holy fucking shit. Well, okay, so let me frame D Vance. I don't know what the So you're putting on, obviously, all the normal weapons. You're also putting on the bouncer, lock, strafe, and third person.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that I'm missing here? Let me...
I think that's pretty much everything important. In retrospect, I like you were like, oh, the bouncer cutscene skip stuff, and in retrospect, like I think the lag from it helped, but you don't need it to do cutscene skips. It only lost like a couple frames in this, and there's some stuff, especially early game, where I didn't really know any better.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess...
Yeah, do it.
Oh, wait, so I'm just noticing that you're doing this in reverse. Wait, hold on.
Yeah, I don't really have to, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't really have to, the quick select doesn't really have to go in like RTA's normal route, I guess, because I can just swap rings on the fly if I need to.
Oh, wow.
Actually, you have to calculate what exactly saves time, given that like because you're inputting so fast, you need to make sure that you're not accidentally overlapping stuff at the same time. It's like there's some weird stuff where you can swap rings and also select stuff at the same time, and it just like or select stuff and swap positions on the ring at the same time.
That's so fucking wild. So, oh my god. Okay, so you skip 2 here. Wow, that's a really interesting setup for that. I would have never thought to do that. That is, well, I mean, I wouldn't have thought to do pretty much all of this shit. This is fucking insane. Wow, okay. So much is already happening right
there. I've got
here.
a spreadsheet somewhere, and I can try and bring it up and just like grab the amount of time it took to do that menu or something. But
yeah.
In the meantime, you can continue on. I think you've seen pretty much most of the first part of Veldin before.
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, I know that that's also been like the tassing thing du jour. Not du jour, but you know what I mean. Like people who ever experiment with Ratchet task stuff, they usually do either Veldin or Zeldrin. So I've definitely seen a lot of Veldin stuff. Tell me a little bit more about what's going on here with the bouncer free fall skip, because I know a little bit about it, but I don't know everything. Sorry, go ahead.
So it's sort of contingent on 2 things. The first is that you know about strafe jumping.
Yes.
But for people who people who are in the chat and don't know, basically, if you have momentum, or if you're strafing and then you charge, or strafe as you like long jump, you can like shift your direction really weirdly. And generally speaking, that's like if you were strafing left and then you charge and cancel and long jump and then press strafe again, your momentum will just like redirect left. And so that applies to walking out the dropship. So if your strafe jump is like set backwards, you'll do the thing where you like bonk, or you like, yeah, you sort of bonk on the edge of the ramp as you go down, right?
Whoa.
So
Okay.
from there you can charge, and it was only relatively recently, I guess, that I realized that hey, if you charge, you can also like charge cancel exactly on the same frame as you start, and that obviously skips doing the free fall. And then from there you can jump on top of the ship and charge and whip jump.
That is so fucking cool. Oh my god.
I think Tana did some labbing on that, and he figured it out that like using the suck cannon makes it way easier to do that for RTA because it cancels charge, but it also like gets rid of all your momentum.
Oh, interesting. So is that like?
Whereas with the, sorry, go ahead.
No. You go ahead first. I want to hear what you have
Okay,
to say.
so whereas with the bouncer, which doesn't cancel your momentum, it's sort of hard. You only have a tiny bit of a window because if you slide too far forward, you'll just slip off the edge and you'll do free fall.
Huh. So like how with the suck cannon? So I think I know what you mean because like as soon as you do this, it's almost like the Lancer in Rack 2 where like you fire it and you just immediately stop in place, right? With the suck cannon.
Yeah.
So so how art like on the scale of RTA viability where like a 1 is like, any thing that we do normally, and a 10 is like epic, right? Like where would you think that the RTA viability of a free fall skip with suck cannon be?
I would not put Epic at a 10, but Suck and a free fall skip probably. I mean, also the main issue on PS3 specifically is that it's really laggy up there. But I would put it at like maybe a 6, maybe a 7. I'm not sure how useful it is in normal runs because of Core Port. But,
Oh, that's true. That's true. Okay, well, I guess I should clarify what I meant because I mean, obviously, half the shit here is ridiculously not viable. I just mean like the highest echelon of what a human has pulled off in these games. When I say RTA viability, so I'm sure there's stuff in here that people could probably replicate with like I don't know, hours upon hours of attempts. That's so crazy. Oh my god. Okay, so that's all of Velden. So I'm trying to think of like even general questions. I just like I don't even know. I'm just like so floored by half of what I'm seeing here. As far as just like I guess if there's any other stuff that you can think of like fun facts or like little knowledge that we in the chat have absolutely no idea of what we're seeing, we would obviously love you to interject and be like, "Oh, here's this little tidbit."
Will do.
So yeah, I guess is there anything else? I guess we'll just go through planet by planet until I don't know how much time you have. I know it's very late for you. Like I said, I don't want to keep you.
It's like 7 a.m. It's fine. I just
Oh
got
my
like no
God.
sleep.
Well, okay, so I'll obviously keep you here as long as you can be here, but I would like to go through planet by planet if possible. So I guess before we move on to Florana, is there any other Velden specific stuff that you wanted to talk about, or like anything that we didn't see, anything that's like, oh well, obviously this little thing here may catch your eye if you pay attention to it.
So at the start of Velden, and it's a strat that I've used in like previous Velden tasks, and so I sort of had that optimized. But you mentioned that I like use the charge boots and then swap off ground ILJ, and like long jump and clear the whole, I guess, gap at the start. And the reason that works is when you cancel charge boots, you dip below the speed cap, and ground ILJing brings you back closer to that. And there's also that little rock on the edge that gives you a little bit more height, and that's just enough to be able to hyper strike onto the platform, and also at the same time insta clip through with the turret.
Yeah, that's so nuts. I definitely have seen stuff like I've seen that so many times, and it still blows me away every time I see it. And I just love this whole sequence here where you're clipping through and hitting the dropship trigger from like so far out. Yeah, that's so cool. Oh my god. You're gonna hear me say that a lot, Nano. I apologize.
Nah, that's all right. Nah, that's understandable.
So does emulator always do the one load screen transitions, or do you have to? So it always does it. So you didn't have to like
It's always
reset.
one.
Okay.
It's occasionally long load. I edited it. I replaced about maybe 6 or 7 long loads across the whole thing.
Wow. So I guess
But
the only time you'd ever have to replace stuff is if it's like a suboptimal load. Were there? I actually don't know the Ouya timings for the load cutscenes. Are they all exactly the same except for that one?
yeah, I think it's like I don't think we have the exact frames, but it's like 4 seconds for all of them except for long load, which is 5.
Okay.
But and also it's worth noting on the load thing that like the transition between command center and launch site, uh, there's like on emulator, or I am assuming PC PS3, it's like 3 ship flying things, and on PS3 it's 4.
Oh, okay. Wait, I'm sorry. I was adding a command. So can you repeat the times that you just told me? So what was 3 and what was 4?
Um, the ship flying the load for between command center and launch site, with the dropship.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, so BC PS3 and I'm assuming BC PS3 and MU get 3 of those, and PS3 gets 4. Also, someone called me one of the best rack speedrunners ever. I am garbage as a real-time speedrunner. Let it be known.
Yeah, but you don't have to tell them that. Just let them believe it. Let them know that, like, just pass this off RTA. Just submit this to the boards and just watch everyone just weep in agony.
If I won't do it, someone else will.
All right, so let's go on to Florana then. So this seems, I hate to use the word standard for any of this, but the very first section does seem, at the very least on the task level, relatively standard, of just like charge through, clip through the gate, and then use so that you're using the bouncer to create. If I'm recalling correctly, you said that it creates lag to be able to instantly skip the cutscene. Is that so? What exactly is
that? Was
happening?
what I thought. That was what I thought. Like months ago, years ago, I suppose. But in doing the whole task, it's not really about the lag.
Okay.
But it's like the consistent method I found, and I'm assuming this works because loads for cutscenes are done synchronously, which basically means the game sort of stops and says, okay, we load this, once it's done we play it, instead of asynchronously, which would be everything keeps running, we load it on the side, and then we bring it in when it's done, basically. So the method is generally is to bring up the quick select, pick a weapon, release the quick select for 1 frame, then swap weapons once every 3 frames for generally 4 times, and do that right as you hit the cutscene trigger. And as you hit the cutscene trigger, the game will like freeze up. You can hold start, and it'll, assuming you got the right timing, start menu will pop up. You close it, cutscene skipped.
Wow,
that's like sort of complex. I hopefully that makes sense for the, I suppose, people who don't know too much about about how this stuff works. But yeah,
even in 0.25 speed, it's still hard to see like everything that you're doing here. That's. I
don't think I brought up the quick select here.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure it's just the weapon swapping.
Okay. I see then.
Musa, I think you can. I can't remember what the insta skip method for rack 1 is, unless you mean the like thing that user found, which was like you can basically just press X on the right frame and it works. No, you can't do that.
Oh, that's really cool. Oh yeah, somebody chat just noticed that you have what is this? 442 million bolts right here. With
that was a holdover from another thing, like a previous when I was messing around with this before, I set it to like 420, 69, 420.
Yeah.
And I didn't like reset it back to that at the start of this sort of iteration, I suppose. So it's just, it is what it is now.
Damn, dude. Okay, so what is going on? This whole Florana, I've also seen this before, but this is just fucking crazy. So you proxy up here, and then you just insta clip out. So, oh my god, this is so cool. And then obviously the cutscene triggers, right? We always kind of knew that the cutscene trigger was like relatively close to the start of the path of death. We just, I mean, obviously we never could figure out a way to do it RTA. But
the issue is sort of getting enough height, but more so that the wall was just like ridiculously hard to clip through.
Yeah. So how hard is that insta clip to pull off? Like how many tries do you think?
I found it. I don't even know. I have no idea how easy that'd be at RTA. I'm lucky I found it.
Holy shit. Okay.
But yeah, basically that works because getting over there, the path of death, the trigger to go back to the main section of Florana only goes up to like a certain height. So by getting up to the top of the big archway and then charging across, you sort of just go over the top.
Okay. Wow. And then obviously,
And then because you're cutscene skipping, you can't do the charge. You can't do the charge shock cannon shot to kill Quark instantly. But you know, it's whatever.
oh yeah, I guess that's pretty fair. I didn't even think about that. But yeah,
There's
Rhino
actually more to say on that for some other boss fights, but yeah.
Rhino seems to do the job pretty easily as well, though. Thankfully. Wow. So I know that Veldin, or not Veldin, Starship Phoenix is probably Starship Phoenix and Dax are probably two gigantic pains in your ass this entire task.
Yeah. Dax, I think more so. Although both of them, I had to test a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like I can already like as an example of like an early game mistake where I didn't know better. I charge cancel side flip into the door on the left at the start, whereas if I redo it, it would be just charge cancel with lock strafe and then like immediately change direction.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. And you do that like pretty consistently later in the run when you're traveling back from the vid comics.
So the clip out of the VR training room saves like a little bit of time. There's some like strafe long jumping there.
Yeah.
There is actually a faster method to hit the bridge trigger by there's like a tiny gap in the geometry where the goop is on the far wall, like facing you, where the goop is. There's actually like a slit in the geometry there that you can charge through, which I think some people knew about, and it saves time. You can whip jump into the trigger, but because you have the wrench out and you have to hyper strike into the trigger, you can't set up the cutscene skip.
Oh, you're talking about like how sometimes people just momentum clip through that wall, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
It's not a momentum clip. There's just a gap.
Oh, it's just a gap. Okay, I never knew that. Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, I know that eventually at some point every single Ouya runner loses a run to going through that thing, which is so funny. That is kind of fascinating. That so you're on the theoretical level. If you were to redo VR, would you go through that gap? Is that like I forget if you were saying, is that any faster or is that just like...
It's faster, but because you have to hyper strike to hit the trigger, you can't skip the cutscene, or at least I couldn't find
I see what you're saying. Okay.
The most consistent way I had was to swap weapons. You can't do that while hyper striking.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So going into this into the training course here, like the actual VR segment, this is just like it's like there's so many instances where all the movement is just so slick. Like it's just so beautiful to watch this. All these insta clips are so nuts. I mean, I don't really have too much else to say other than that, but I would love to hear if you have any comments.
Not too much, but insta clipping is sort of weird to optimize because I don't know, like most levels, you're like, okay, I just need to get to this point as quick as possible. With insta clips, it's I need to throw the turret as early as possible so that it lands where I want it to be and I can be there.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Like, yeah.
Yeah,
and also because the turret momentum is influenced by yours. So if you're charging with the turret and you throw and you keep charging, it'll go further than you would if you stopped.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And you also use that of course on the Instaclip at the during the Phoenix Rescue section. Yeah. Which that was the one time I noticed it. But I didn't know that was what was going on. That's really fucking cool. Yeah, wow. I gotta see that again. It's just so cool seeing this whole segment play out. Like, I love that this is all done in Lockstrafe too. Like,
Lockstrafe is so good. I didn't realize. Actually, that's another mistake, I suppose, is that I didn't expect I'd be using Lockstrafe nearly as much, and it's only on like the normal camera rotation speed.
Oh, really? So the camera moves slower.
Yeah, it's at the normal speed. So I think I've lost a couple frames on Arcadia somewhere, but like, they're little mistakes.
It's so funny because, you know, when we hear people who don't task, when we hear taskers say, I lost a couple frames here, like, I feel like there's this like flurry of thoughts that go through our head of just like, does that really matter? And then we think, well, I guess for you guys, it absolutely matters a shit ton. You're like, you know, anytime you see a couple frames being lost, I'm sure it's probably like a brickbat against your soul.
Oh yeah, it can be. I don't know. Yeah, it depends on the context, but Yeah, especially if I'm trying to like super optimize something.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So like
and that's
this,
all
this
your.
and Dax, I was trying to.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to. I'm
Yeah,
bad
sorry,
at this.
man. This
I keep cutting people off.
doesn't help with the US to Australia latency, but like this for VR skip and Dax, I was like really going ham on like how much I could try to optimize it. So yeah,
Yeah, dude, this is so
losing
crazy.
frames there would be sort of, I don't know, a bit annoying. But
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm sure there's definitely some that are more like infuriating than others. Like I can imagine that, if you lose a couple frames on like Marcadia weapon swapping shenanigans, you're probably like, whatever. Like this shit is just fucking stupid anyway.
yeah,
But I could definitely see why
unlovable outcast.
some plants would be a point of pride for you. Like especially this, especially Dax, especially Zeldrin. I'm curious, but I actually do want to know: are there any, aside from the obvious ones, going into this, are there any that like you are particularly proud of?
Zeldrin, I suppose.
Zelda, yeah,
Like I didn't realize that was the thing, and I just tested, and I was like, yeah, yeah, why not? And then I was like, huh, maybe I can get through this, and I did. And I think I was talking to some people in the Ratchet Discord at some point about Zeldrin and like which method I used, and I was like, God, I want to talk about this so bad, fuck, and I couldn't. So yeah,
that yeah, I gotta say that must have been a shock to pretty much everybody. Yeah, I would have never imagined that's what you're doing. Like I almost like I almost did like a double take when I was seeing that. At first, I was just like, wait, what? Like I was like, oh, well, he's just doing like normal Ghost Ratchet. Oh, wait, that's not normal. And I think a lot of people, a lot of people who aren't very knowledgeable of this game will see that you got a 47 or a 48 or whatever the final time was, and be like, well, that's really slow, right? Well,
yeah. This dude's not getting a 56.
yeah, they don't understand that you skipped the entire free fall into the death
Yeah,
abuse, into the reload, which saves it a shit ton more than doing it
yeah.
any other
I
way.
think the rough comparison between uh doing the like the out of what I guess the blind route with Ghost Ratchet, I think lost about half a second, um, which I think could be optimized. But I also think the without the blind version without Ghost Ratchet could also be optimized. And comparing like the normal route to the blind version, I think normal route would need like a mid 52 to tie it,
Wow.
and like I couldn't get that.
Yeah.
Gave it an honest try.
Yeah, people don't really understand how little there is to squeeze out of the movement there without Ghost Ratchet. I mean, like, I'm sure there's some crazy shit you could do to save, at the very least, a full second over what we usually do RTA, but
Mm.
or at least somewhere close to that. But anything beyond that I mean, it's like squeezing water out of a stone. There's just not enough like landscape there to do anything.
Mm.
That is just so great. I can't wait to get to that again so we can hear a little bit more. I mean, obviously you already did that breakdown video, but yeah, I'm curious when we get to that point. But I can't wait to rewatch this Dax. This was like a fucking maelstrom of just crazy shit. First off, I love that you use this like the rail texture here. I think that's so creative to avoid any bonking there and just like
Mm.
I didn't even know that you could just like naturally charge up that thing. I didn't realize there was like enough sloped textures on that.
Yeah, no, I think there is enough of a slope. If you take too tight of an angle, you bonk, and you can also bonk on the little like yellow thing at the end of the post. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think I did something similar in my like old Dax tasks, like whenever the hell that was that I did for Ricky at whatever point.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, the main thing here was just like I want to get waterless and hyperstrikeless,
Yeah.
and you know it is what it is. So
Now I'm seeing a question in the chat from Venus, and please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, Nano. But she asked, "Is PS2 faster than PS3 at the task level? Do the tools even exist to do PS3 tasks?"
I I'm not sure. I haven't like checked up on PS3 emulation. Uh, I know that like user made his own like custom input sort of thing that he used to like pipe inputs into the game. I'm pretty sure,
Hmm.
and I don't think it's natural to the emulator.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not super sure. But
Yeah.
but in PS3 versus PS2, I mean, BC PS3 and PS2 save time on, or an emulator save time on the loads. But like,
Yeah.
there's, I think, in terms of like that's interplanetary loads, but then there's stuff inside levels that PS3 save times on. I know Mobius
Yeah.
did a really big comparison.
Yeah, Andy and I also sat down and timed that out, and it was really sick that Mobius did that because it kind of verified a lot of the work that Andy and I had done prior to that. Because I remember Andy and I sat down for like the only reason I knew that is because Andy and I sat down for like what was it, like 7 hours or something like that, and just like and grind all that out. That is actually true what Nano said. I believe, what is it, like point 0.8 or point 0.9 for every or every cutscene inside the levels. PS3 loads, I believe, like point 0.9 seconds faster, if I'm recalling correctly. And so that's
It's
like
something like that.
yeah, point 0.7 it was IRC. I'll take your word for it, Andy. I'll have to I'll have to double check that at some point. I don't quite remember, but I do. Yeah, that is kind of that was what kind of pushed PS3 well over the edge. I remember when we initially timed it. Between that and Quark Warp, that was kind of what gave it the edge in the end. But yeah, like obviously you're still losing all that time, and kind of given the fact that you have so many ways to insta skip cutscenes, I'm curious to see like what would be the final like net time save or time loss between versions. But I mean, obviously, we can always revisit that conversation when emulation like software gets better than it currently
Better,
is.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a big problem. A lot of people
the
don't
past
know.
were a nightmare.
Yeah.
Honestly, with the emulation, but
Okay, so wait, actually, so this is something I don't really understand fully. Can you explain task desyncs and why they're a problem and why they happen?
so the assumption with a tool-assisted speedrun is that the game is deterministic in that if you're starting from a certain point, that the same actions are going to happen every single time. Uh, they the PCSX2 or I guess Ratchet in general isn't deterministic, and that's mostly caused by, as far as we can tell, like desyncs on loads, where loads will take a little bit more or a little bit less, and that'll throw up everything else, stuff like that. So the way I did basically, the run is basically segmented, and I started at the start of each planet, uh, had a save state there as like a, I guess, starting point for determinism, I guess, and then from there to the end of the planet was mostly fine, but there was still some desyncs on like areas with a lot of lag, or where I'm swapping weapons really quickly and there's lag. Occasionally, a desync would happen, which obviously means that the expected thing that would happen for some reason did not happen, which means that everything after that point is no longer in sync with what's happening in the game.
Okay.
And that's where desync comes from.
Okay. Yeah, that's. I think that's good to keep in mind, just for anybody who's watching this, and that like, it takes even more work to get all this shit like organized and squared away than it even appears as you're watching. I mean, obviously it looks insane, but there's always so much more nuance and like little tiny stuff that's happening behind the scenes. So I don't want to keep waiting. I do want to get to this Dax. So left side Dax first, huh? So I imagine you probably had to do tons of different theory routes, tons of different like
Yeah.
everything. Oh my god, is that an insta clip through the wall? After
Yeah, there's a tiny bit of geometry there that if you fall right on top of and don't have any like sideways momentum, you'll sort of just go through. I think Instaclip is probably just as fast, but that one gives you that clip gives you like, I mean Instaclip through like the door, the normal sort of strat.
Yeah.
Is just as fast, but the clip through the sort of the side of the building gives you like a way better angle to like hit the trigger while staying out of bounds.
Yeah, so, and you also stay out of bounds. You hit the cutscene from out of bounds, stay out of bounds, and then, oh my god. So you're refreshing your charge off of the texture on the wall as you go back into bounds.
Yeah, the glide there is actually forced because of the way like the cutscene things work, and I'm swapping weapons to skip the cutscene, but then it's giving me coordinates, and then once the coordinates thing goes away, it tries to pull out my weapons again automatically. So I have to force the game basically forces me to glide, which is fine. So I can use it to like reposition, get the right angle, and also swap. I think I swapped camera modes there or something.
Yeah, that's, you can like barely tell. You can like I love that the camera's just so out of whack as well there. So like you can hardly even tell that you're gliding. I may not have even noticed that if you hadn't pointed it out. And I know that in one of your videos the proxy method was also slower, unfortunately, because it did look very cool. But obviously, I mean, this technique or what you're doing here is just so sick looking too. Are there any particular, like, are those videos just like strats that you got attached to that like you wanted them to be faster?
I was just like testing some random stuff, and it was like, I wish this was faster, or like, you know, it's just like swag strats that are slow. I was like, hey, people probably enjoy watching this a little bit at least. So I was like, hey, man, cool.
I love that. You know, Andy and Sneepy right now are joking, saying this is the first sub 5 Dax. I love that. That's so funny. So break down this whole warship section for me, because there's a lot happening right now.
So okay, well, warship's a nightmare because it's laggy as fuck. But so I throw a bunch of turrets because I know that I'm hitting warship, the trigger for warship, before I hit the cutscene, so that I then hit the cutscene. I do a rhino bomb, whip jump, or insta whip onto the platform, and the turret's obviously doing damage in the meantime, which helps put him to a threshold where the rhino bomb will just like kill automatically, basically. Try and do at least a little bit. I know that you can like rhino bomb and like just melt the whole HP bar essentially, and I couldn't get it. So I guess my next best thing was to sort of just optimize for damage as much as possible. Also worth noting that like I actually have to, after killing him, I actually have to delay my movement a little bit because I can get over to the teleporter fast that you only get their coordinates if you're within a certain radius of like that platform.
Yeah. That's something a lot of runners don't know, or at least maybe not a lot of runners, but certainly a lot of people watching the game don't know, is that you do actually have to be in range of the ship to collect the coordinates from it after it blows up. Like, I think I've seen people do this mistake before where they run out of ammo, and so they have to go back to the other side of the vendor, pick up the thing, and they try to like kill the warship from where the ammo vendor is, and they blow it up, but then the ship like has momentum because they swung their camera too fast, and the warship like goes to the opposite side of the platform and blows up there, and then they just don't ever get the coordinates, and they don't know how to like all you have to do is just like double jump out a little bit, and then you'll see like the auto save, but a lot of people don't know that. That's so cool.
The auto save there is like I think it's it should be frame perfect, where I'm hitting it and the autosave is completing basically the instant I finished going through the teleport, or like close enough to that.
Yeah. Damn, dude, that is so nuts. That's such a fucking cool planet. I can't believe it. Like I had high expectations going into that Dax, but that just blew me away. That is so cool. Congratulations to you on such sick routing there. Again, I can only imagine how long it took you to sit down and like plot out not only that route but every other theory route that you could possibly come up with, and then test all of that.
There was only like 4 of them. It was like left side take teleporter, obviously slow. Yeah. Because teleporter takes like, what is it? It's like 8 seconds or something to wait for the coordinates to go away and then take the teleporter. Left side clip out, obviously what I did. Right side take teleporter, did in my previous task, and I did like a rough comparison and it was slower. Partially due to like the opening movement of like doing waterless. And sort of like, because a lot of that movement's like sort of slowish side flips to get over to like where you need to whip jump and then hyper swing from. And the other one was was right side first, and then to do the I can't remember what the meme strat was called, but to like go from warship to the side of the building and proxy up it, but the proxies take too long.
Yeah, it kind of seems that the perpetual issue. Well, I mean, I'm just kind of speculating based on what I've seen. It seems like in general, unfortunately, proxies tend to be a little bit slower on the theoretical side of things. I mean, obviously we need them RTA to gain height, but the fact that you don't ever have to worry about losing height because you can just mid-air charge over and over in a task seems to be a little over-centralizing. I hate to use that word because it makes it sound like it's a bad thing, but it does seem that like kind of over-centralizes the meta a little bit, where it's just like anytime you could be doing something, well, can I just mid-air charge there instead? At least, yeah.
Well, not if not mid-air charge, then like just charge in general.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless you have Ghost, which doesn't really happen much.
Wow, that is really, really sick. Gemini, I was pleasantly surprised by this Gemini route. I love that insta clip right at the start. And I'm so glad you were able to use the side flip momentum. That is just so cool, where you do the long jump off the magnet rail.
Yeah.
That is so interesting. I also love that you use long jumps here at this little section right before the magnet rail.
Yeah, definitely saves a little bit of time there.
Now, a lot of people, I always kind of explain this in a weird way, but like the I don't know, the way that I always say it, and maybe you have a bit more insight as to like what's actually going on there. But I always tell people that the gravity is different on this planet, or like what have you. That's like just the easiest way to put it.
Yeah.
And so momentum does not work the same way on this planet as it does other planets. Did that create any unique challenges that the rest of the task does not have?
Well, it's honestly, the momentum sort of works in the same way, but also not. Basically, your like charge brute momentum is capped at like a bit under half, I think.
Okay.
And it's the same speed as your thruster pack long jumps. But charge brutes get moving quicker, and they're faster in general, unless you need to cut that corner there.
Yeah.
But besides that, like, momentum works the same way, which is part of the reason why like those massive long jumps work, is because the game isn't really, as far as I can tell, wrapping you around with the gravity so much as it is just doing your normal jump.
Yeah.
So it sort of just goes forward, and going forward straight out from a sphere is just like, you know, getting a lot of distance there.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, as like at the start of Pollux, instead of doing the charge, I tried testing like doing thruster, swapping off, and then just chaining long jumps, and it ended up being slower.
Was it slower by any significant margin? I know we had this discussion RTA as well at one point. People did notice that the thruster pack was very similar speeds to the charge boots.
Yeah.
But I imagine, you know, obviously you have a different perspective when it comes to like slower by number of frames than I do. Slower by
I forget.
Yeah.
I forget how much slower it is, but I'm pretty sure it is slower. I also the sort of stuff, the terrain being in the way, also makes it a bit difficult there. I know with Ghost Ratchet and doing the side flip thing, you can get enough height to basically get on top of those big pillars.
Really?
Yeah, but obviously you're like you're side flip quite a while to get that done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna sneeze one sec. Okay,
Yeah,
maybe I'm not gonna sneeze. My body is betraying me. Fuck.
That's maybe the worst feeling ever, when you like feel like you have to sneeze but then you can't.
Your nose is just going, and you're like, damn it.
Yeah. Oh my god. I love this sequence so much. I know that somewhere in the world IN is so happy that this is what you did for the, because like he was basically the pioneer for this. I remember, like, I forget who found it, but I remember he was the first person to ever try to use this stuff in an RTA setting to such an insane degree, and this is a whole degree and a half beyond what we ever conceived. That's so creative. I love this so much, and I love it's just perfectly spaced to land directly on the teleporter. That's so swag.
Funny enough, you don't really actually lose it. I think there's some spots you can land after the jump pad that loses you a little bit of time, but like generally you pretty much always land around about the same time, so it doesn't actually lose any time to like position yourself correctly.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, wow. I love that so much. This is like low key one of my favorite planets, but only because I know how ridiculous that would be to ever. I mean, all of this is ridiculous, but like that particular strat, I found that so like unbelievably creative. But yeah, that's such a cool Gemini, and I know. So, Blackwater and Marcadia present different challenges than the rest of the game. Can you give people a little bit of insight as to like what challenges you foresaw and what kind of completely blindsided you?
All right. The obvious challenge was pretty much every other level in the game is get to X position as quick as possible. And this one, it's just like destroy. I did like there's like waves of enemies, and you're trying to identify which ones trigger the next ones, and destroy them as quick as possible. And generally, that's fine. There's like some annoying issues with enemies that spawn in like spread out groups, or like I don't know, stuff with like the Rift Ripper. I think could definitely be optimized, but to use like individual weapons and stuff. But it sort of depends because a lot of the enemies are just spawning in like, one by one over the course of like 8 seconds, like at the end here or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the unforeseen issue was dealing with slower ways of enemies spawning, and also with the weapon swapping, which on mission 1 saved like a little bit over a second, but also just caused like like ear destruction. And also I tried doing it on mission 3 after destroying the turrets, and my game would just constantly desync, so I ended up not doing it. And I think the reason why that happens actually is because emulator is probably lagging, but it's not actually lagging like console would, like because your PC's powering it or whatever. It doesn't matter. The game just keeps running at full speed, even though it would normally be lagging. I'm not actually sure. Like, there's some other weird stuff like that where I don't know if it's an emulator only thing or, what exactly causes it. I'm not sure.
So yeah, I was actually about to follow that up by asking. You kind of already, this is a pretty nice segue into what I was going to ask. Is this something that like how fast would you have to mash to realistically save any time in like an RTA setting?
I don't think it'd work RTA, especially on PS3, given how laggy PS3 is in general.
Yeah, that's
I
actually
think you
really
would
true.
just kill your. I think you'd just kill your segment if it even worked. Assuming it did work, you'd still kill your segment basically.
Yeah, I do remember. I forget who found that out, but apparently every time you swap weapons on PS3, the game lags by 1 frame, which is obviously extremely annoying. Especially given, I think what was it, Scott? Like, I think it was Scott who figured out that it was slower because he was on mission 4 of Marcadia and he had nothing to do, so he was just rapidly swapping weapons. And then he ended up losing like 3 seconds on the segment. He's like, "What the fuck happened?" Like, and then we kind of figured that out from there. Yeah, I love that weapon swap. So, did you know about the weapon swapping thing going into it, or was that just one of those like happy accident kind of things?
Happy accident. I think I was just messing around and I
Okay.
was just trying to fill time, I suppose. I didn't realize because I test pretty much with the sound off, like I didn't realize it would be so just ear destroying.
So you add the sound back in later then?
Um, I I took yeah. So I don't test with the sound because you're basically doing like 1 frame worth of sound every time you advance,
Gotcha.
which sort of yeah doesn't sound great. So then I just muted it, and then after when I'm like recording the thing, it comes out. I don't know. So I just took that whole audio track for Blackwater and I took it into FL Studio and just put an equalizer on it, cut out that horrible, awful ear destruction. You can't really tell that much unless you sort of know what you're listening for. But
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. And I'm going to assume that it's kind of the same thing throughout here, where it's just kind of like, optimizing enemy positions. I remember we talked about where enemies spawn and how they spawn. That was something that we and I'm sure you had to source a lot of information about that sort of stuff from all kinds of different people.
yeah, from you, from Scotto, from Tana,
Yeah.
for the most part. Yeah, so some of the stuff here, like the rift placement was like specifically to kill the sources where they spawn. There's like 6, and there's like they spawn right to left, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then then it's like I can't exactly remember. It's like one in the middle and one on the left, something like that. The annoying thing with like I guess I'll talk about it a bit more in Marcadia, but with dealing with enemies as they spawn is like how do you want to do it? If you're not looking at if you're not looking at them and you have to look at something else, then the plasma coil won't work.
Yeah, that's a big
If
problem.
if you want to look away, then you can use the Rift Ripper, but if you're too far away, the Rifts despawn.
Yeah, people don't know how
Uh,
finicky the weapons are in this game. They really don't.
oh yeah, like that. If the game is lagging at all, just enjoy. You'll just stop moving randomly.
Yeah, that is a. Did you ever have how many? I know this was a big issue on PS2, but in like the whole idea of like input lag and like, I know on certain PS2 consoles, the game would just start chugging after like a certain amount of time, and then every time you try to swap weapons, there's just a ridiculous amount of lag. Was that ever an issue on emulator?
Yes, I'm not sure for the same reasons, but
Yeah.
especially on laggy areas, like I'm still not exactly sure what causes it at all. Be issues where I'd be trying to pull out a weapon in mid charge and it would stop my charge and it like kill all my momentum. On Neffy and Bio Obliterator, there's just so much lag that like I think if you watch Neffy back, it's there's just weird things where like I'm moving and I stop moving as the weapon's being pulled out because the game just like is trying to get the weapon out and just doesn't want me to move. Or, I don't even know. It's nightmarish, but it is like seemingly consistent, so you can work it out. Yeah, Precious Stones. Yes, this is an Australian accent. G'day. And Kaka Pee Pee Poo Poo. I also use FL Studio for music, but I am thoroughly mediocre. We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, electronic music is its own fresh hellscape beyond even like a lot of people obviously use that. Well, this is a totally different conversation point, but yeah, a lot of people use like interesting, like there's a whole assortment of music editing software and like music creation software, but a lot of people don't understand how Herculean of an effort is needed to use any of it effectively. It takes a lot of know-how, a lot of knowledge to do that. But again, that's we're getting off topic with that. But yeah, that is cool that you're able to use FL Studio just for a whole multitude of purposes. So yeah, I'm there's one particular section of Arcadia that I really want to probe your brain about. I mean, like I actually, well, first off, the general question I'm sure a lot of people might have is, you know, and I think I know the answer to this, but I want to give you the chance to talk about it. How much did you try to search for a true to form like Marcadia Upwarp or like, I think you know where I'm going with this.
I did that searching years ago.
Yeah.
So it
So
was like there is theoretically there is a way to to do early LDF. I tested Ghost Ratchet with proxying. Doesn't work because if you have Ghost Ratchet, the proxy you'll just move through the geometry. The method I tested basically, if you're above the speed cap and you hyperstrike in midair, the game sort of like doesn't give you much downward momentum. Uh, so the strat was get like a ridiculous amount of speed, then side flip, hyperstrike, wrench swing, side flip, hyperstrike, wrench swing over and over and over again, and slowly gain height. And it was there's no way. I don't think it. I think the conclusion I came to was it would not end up working at all anyway because you needed to be like strafe ground ILJing for 2 minutes,
holy shit.
and it would take even longer to get the like I think it's like 200 meters worth of height to get up to a LDF.
Yeah.
So yeah, no up warp, no up warp,
That
no
is
Tira guys, no flux flips, none of that.
that is of course you know uh that is of course not ideal, or I shouldn't say not ideal, but I'm sure disappointing to some people who wanted to see, Marcadia skip of some point. But that just goes to show, for all you people who are asking, it's not even viable on the task level.
Yeah,
So this is not something you should expect unless we truly have some sort of colossal discovery that somehow makes it possible. I mean, I've always thought. I mean, obviously, flux flips exist. But they kind of require a hacked file to do.
Yeah, it's a QA thing also.
Yeah, and so that's not even viable on PS2 in the first place. And yeah, I don't know. It's just like the people, I think, conflate Pokeskip being so close with this Marcadia skip. Like, oh well, clearly if Pokeskip, people have been calling that impossible. If that's already like so close to being discovered, clearly there
Yeah.
must be something from Arcadia skip as well. I mean, like, it's just not there right now, you know?
Pokeskip's sort of predicated on you just sort of have to get to a position in the level. Early LDF is find a way to get 200 meters worth of height.
Yeah. Which is just damn near impossible in this game, unfortunately.
Yeah.
With current, obviously, you know, current strats withholding. So yeah, I'm gonna jump back a little bit on this Marcadia. I mean, it is pretty true to form, or it is pretty cookie cutter what you're doing here. I mean, obviously, it's just you're killing things on spawn. And like the movement here, I love how seamless the skip into the dropship is at the very beginning. This all, you know, again, I hate to call anything standard, but it all just it does seem very, you know, formulaic. You know, the enemy spawns, you kill the enemy.
Just gotta, yeah, pretty much that's sort of Marcadia in a nutshell, I suppose.
Yeah, which I imagine is actually pretty relieving on your end of things, where it's like,
Yeah, it was easier than I was expecting.
yeah. I'm sure this took much less planning and routing, even though Marcadia is the longest planet. I'm sure this did not take nearly as much effort as a lot of other ones did.
The main issue for Marcadia, I think, was mostly just how long it was. Like, if I wanted to, like, try recording a segment or a bit of it, it would be like just minutes. It's like 10 minutes or something, like even longer.
Yeah.
Just trying to like wait for this thing to record at like 40% speed or whatever it was.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love the.
About clipping. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I love the out of bounds on mission 2. I think that's so
Yeah.
creative that you use it. But anyway, yeah, you were saying.
That out of bounds is sort of interesting because you can look at like using the level viewer, you can look at the lines where the ships spawn from and move to, and there's two ships, one ship on either side that you can't shoot from where that position is out of bounds. They like spawn below the mud level,
Huh.
and you try to shoot them and it just sort of like it's like I can't tell whether it's because of the mud or it's an invisible wall there. There is an invisible wall there. But yeah, so I have to move back in bounds to kill that. It's like the one on the left side is the one I use Skronk strat to kill with the shot cannon through the wall.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, just to address a question in chat from Cicero, does the TAS figure out how to do stuff itself? No, I am the TAS-er, and I use the emulator to go through the game frame by frame and record whatever inputs and then play it at full speed. No, but in reality, there's one person and their name is TAS, and they do all the tasks.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
from Tasmania.
one of my favorite things that people always write is like, who is Tass? Like, who is this person? You know? Yeah. No. This is painstaking effort on Nano's part. He has to do everything. Every single thing has to be done by him, edited by him, put together by him, problem solved, troubleshooted by him. I love this swag strat. Is this just a swag strat on mission 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it's swag strat. Like I was like, I know I can get on top of the dropship. I didn't know if I could get all the way around. I was like, yeah, maybe as well try it. I wanted to do like sort of other swaggy movement stuff, but I can't. But swapping off the charge boots to Grand ILJs loses time, and getting Ghost Ratchet also loses time. So I was like, yeah, this is the next best thing.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to get on top of the big building at the back of the arena, but like there's no collision there.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that there isn't more texture there. It would have been really cool to see you experiment. But I also imagine you kind of can't really be putzing around too long for obvious reasons.
I did try charging all the way back to Ratchet ship or whatever, but you go too far and the rangers like respawn where you are and they just fall to their death and you lose the mission.
Oh my god, that's
Yeah.
actually really funny. I would have never expected that. I love the sound of Korean Ratchet bonking. It sounds excruciating.
Korean Ratchet makes some weird sounds sometimes. It's a bit, I don't know. Like you look at the hyper strike after free fall skip on Veldon, and he makes this really bizarre sound. And there's another one, I can't remember what segment it is. It also sounds weird.
Yeah, this is so cool. Yeah, and then I imagine this was probably like a breath of fresh air when you got to this section. You're just like, I don't have to do fucking anything. I could just chill here.
Yeah, I was just like, I did want to do some cool stuff, but like I figured, you know what, that dropship thing was enough. I'm gonna relax-ish.
Yeah. For the people asking about Mission 4 proxy, listen, that is pretty much exclusively a meme that I stole that meme from Wiffle, and that's almost exclusively a meme that you guys use in my chat. I mean, I know Wiffle still uses it sometimes when he runs, but you guys can't expect that just because a meme happens on my stream that it'll happen everywhere else in the world. You know, that's
wrong warp to credits.
Yeah,
the original Mission 4 proxy.
Yeah, that is the original. That's the OG shit. You guys don't know. You guys need to learn your Ouya history. And I love that Musa pointed this out. Like you guys got the swag dropship and you're complaining about Mission 4 proxy? Come on. Like, let's be a little realistic here. This is nice for me as well because I can just jump ahead of this. Help you get to take a nap a little bit early, a minute earlier if I can. I loved the Ghost Ratchet, theory thing that you did here. It's a shame that's not faster.
It just takes too long to get it. You lose I think it's 3 or 4 seconds instead of the frame perfect death abuse. So
yeah,
and because you're hitting this is like people joke about Marcadia being an auto scroller. This Mission 5 is an auto scroller. You're hitting almost all the bolts as soon as they're active, except for the third to the fourth one.
I would have never expected that. That takes me by surprise because I think most people would just expect that as soon as they pop up, or as soon as you're done with one, the next one's just good to go.
No, so with Ghost, so a bit of background. Charge boots have we measure momentum in Ratchet in terms of there's horizontal or neutral momentum, as most people call it, I suppose. And then that sort of informs your other movement, it'll carry into long jumps and stuff, right? Charge boots give you 0.5 meters per frame.
Okay.
But the speed cap is 0.423, right? So with Ghost Ratchet, because the speed cap is removed, charge boots actually move at 0.5 per frame. Which means that with just Ghost Ratchet and the charge boots, you're hitting pretty much every single bolt crank before it's spawned and activatable in the Ghost Ratchet version of Mission 5.
That's kind of interesting. Yeah. So do you think that, this is a bit of speculation, but do you think from a dev standpoint that they intentionally planned it that way of oh, well, this is the speed that you would be able to if you charged in a straight line, so that's how it's...
I think it probably the overall speed played a factor, but I also think probably somebody just went, let's put a nice clean number in here.
Yeah, I guess that's probably a lot easier.
Doesn't have any long decimal points. It's a nice looking number. I'm gonna use it.
Yeah, I think that is probably something I forgot when I posed that question. Is that it's not that devs are lazy. That's not the impression I want any of you in chat to get. It's just that devs will always try to do something in a way that's quick and efficient if possible, because their lives can oftentimes be living hell with how hard they have to get stuff done in such a short amount of time. And so I'm sure that is probably the much more likely scenario, what you just painted, of just a dude being this works.
Sorry. Yeah, I'll just, in the background while I'm answering stuff, I'm going to bring up the level viewer real quick, and I'll just give you the approximate amount of height you need to hit early LDF.
Yeah, please do. That'd be really sick. This, I love this LDF. This is so Silence-esque. This is the Silence route from the year 3000. This is just so cool to see. And I love the backtrack as well. That is so cool that you can manage to actually chain a long jump off of that texture.
There's actually a decent amount of stuff that's solid there. It's mostly just the tops of pillars or above doors and stuff. But
yeah,
it all sort of useful.
That backtrack is almost faster RTA IIRC. Yeah, the normal one where you just like long jump through the wall to get to the like when you're backtracking to get to the other side, it's like barely I think a second slower than taking the teleporter or something like that, or like not maybe not even that. But I do know that it was a lot harder and a lot slower, or a little bit slower, which is really unfortunate because it's just so cool to see that backtrack. But
So
yeah,
just for context,
oh sure.
I did a little bit of testing on like what would be faster for the backtrack. And if I just carried the momentum from the double jump after Al's cutscene and just jumped out of bounds and fell down towards the dropship, done optimally, it saved time over taking the teleporter. But obviously
Really?
the backtrack to the ship saved time over doing that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's so cool. Next stream, beating tasks. Yeah, I'll definitely do that. Yeah, only gotta save 7 minutes and change. No big deal.
Yeah, it seems feasible. I believe in you.
Yes. God, I love that. So, hold on. This is a just for according to what we would do split wise. So, like around the 10:33 mark, you enter LDF. And a good LDF is usually like what, 30 seconds or something like that from beginning to end. This is 8 seconds you've already hit the teleporter, or hit the cutscene rather. Going back from the dropship. 33 seconds. And then, yeah, so you're saving you're saving 9.5 seconds over RTA in a 30-second window. I mean, it's stuff like this is all over the map. It's just so crazy to see, like you really just eke every possible second out of this. I mean, I guess that's that. I mean, I'm saying that from my perspective as an RTA runner, that's just like, yeah, well, yeah, fucking duh. That's that's what taskers do.
Yeah.
It's just so crazy to see, though. Oh my god, that is such a sick. That is so sick. All right, and the Phoenix segments are pretty nice to go through as well because it seems to be pretty formulaic. Of you go to the vid comic, you skip the vid comic, and then you go back to the ship.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would deem super noteworthy about these that maybe like the we're not seeing with the naked eye?
Not really. I mean, there's some interesting stuff with the cutscene insta skips where they still give you the coordinates, but they mess up some of like the mission flags and stuff.
Okay.
So, um, so for example, if I go for the insta skip on the VidComic 1, it just doesn't load VidComic 1. Like it's not a
Whoa.
soft lock, but I have to load out of the level and then load back in and then go back into the cutscene again. Um, and there's other stuff like I think some people noted that it was weird on like crash sites like Phoenix segment, whatever, that Scrunch was like still running around, and that's because if you're like skipping Quark's cage and the bridge cutscenes, then like the game doesn't like update its state basically.
Yeah.
But you still get coordinates. And then another thing is after crash site, when you get Iridia, because you skip the cutscene of like a previous thing that has a higher priority in terms of missions than Iridia. Um, Iridia doesn't take precedence when you go to the ship menu.
Whoa, that's
I don't know, it's
really
just
cool.
weird stuff like that. But that also doesn't. That's also a bit annoying on. I forget which split it is. It's something else where I have to manually change planets because the insta skip meant that something else took priority. Also, I did the quick maths on early LDF height. So just comparing ground levels of the start of early LDF and the start of where Ratchet spawns. Ratchet spawns about like 98 Y, or like whatever his vertical position I suppose
Yeah.
is about 98. LDF is about 310. So like 212 meters. And
Oh
I know
my
it's meters
God.
because I'm pretty sure they use Maya or something. We had Mike Stout. We did like an AMA thing for us like ages and ages ago, which you were a part of.
Oh yeah.
And he answered that question like a while back.
Wow, dude, I gotta say, like, given our working relationship with Insomniac devs past and present, I can't wait for them to see this. This is
I sent Mike the task like last night. I don't know if anyone else from Insomniac or anybody else who worked on the game has seen it, but I know I sent it to Mike.
yeah. I actually I plan on shooting the Insomniac people a message relatively soon about some stuff, but you can bet your bottom dollar I'm gonna include this, and just be like, oh hey, P.S. if you haven't seen this already, I can't wait to hear how assuming, because they actually, if you guys don't know, we actually do have a very good relationship with a lot of the devs of a lot of the Ratchet games. We've had many conversations in the past with Mike Stout. We've obviously, I did that thing at Insomniac last year, and they pretty much this was presented not as an opportunity for them to get a popular Ratchet streamer. This was an opportunity. They literally invited everybody. I was just the only person who had the means to go. But they love talking to speedrunners of Ratchet games. I know they had Jeremy Thompson at the studio as well doing Spyro 3 stuff a while back. They love the speedrunning community, which
Yeah.
you don't always see that. That's something I think that we cannot take for granted. Because a lot of communities have this relationship where the devs will come in and be like, "Oh, hey, you guys are speedrunners, right? Hey, what do you think about all this stuff?" And then speedrunners will type out everything they know, and the devs turn around and they just like print it out and slap it on somebody's desk and be like, "All right, route out all, or remove all these glitches. Yeah, fix all this shit. I don't want that."
I forget which. I don't want to like unnecessarily slander people. I remember a while ago, I think like the Hat in Time devs did something like that, or there was something, I don't remember. Take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. I have no fucking clue what I'm talking about, but I thought that was a thing a while back. But generally, Insomniac's been great with like, I don't know, they're nice and hands off. They very much appreciate, I think, what we do, and they're happy to highlight it. And they even did with Rack PS4. They patched something, and we got in contact, and we were like, "Hey, this will affect like literally nobody. Can you please unpatch it?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
Yeah, that's almost unheard of.
Yeah.
How many times? I mean, I'm trying to think of like a popular example. I know League of Legends, for example. Like, how many times does it take like a 10,000 plus upvoted Reddit thread of like, "This is fucking terrible, please fix it," for them to finally actually do something about it? And then even then, they usually don't actually do what people wanted. They just do what's most convenient for them, and just slap a band-aid on and be like, "All right, well that solves that." And then everyone's like, "No, you fucking didn't." And they're like, I guess it's about time to head out. But yeah, I do want to just impress that upon you guys, because I don't think we should ever take that for granted, how sick our relationship is with them. I do want to keep moving forward, because like I said, I do want you to get to a nap in at some point today.
And you need to be playing like Danganronpa or whatever you
yeah,
to do after this.
I need to be playing Weebs and Waifus, the game. Yeah, I also, my mom is in chat. She was in chat earlier telling me that
I noticed.
Yeah, I have a food delivery that I need to go pick up, because there's no refrigeration, and everything's gonna be terrible if I don't. So yeah, I love the strat that you do here at the start of Annihilation Nation. I know a lot of people probably expected Tar Ninja. I hope you guys were pleasantly surprised by this, because I think this is way cooler. And we knew about this too. We've known about this for a long time. It's just obviously not RTA consistent, because any strat that involves an instaclip is automatically going to be extremely difficult. And this, I believe this is a circular dome, right? Like this thing that you're instaclipping through right here.
The wall here is straight.
Okay.
It's like I think it's like essentially a cubic room inside a sphere.
Okay. So
that wall was a little bit annoying to clip through, but generally it was fine. The more interesting thing was like if you charge too far out, there's like a gap between the interior wall and the exterior wall. Mm-hmm. And if you charge too far past the exterior wall, you can't whip jump.
Interesting.
So I have to like insta whip to a certain point.
It's kind of like
at a certain point.
Is that's got to be a textural thing then? Because that's kind of like how the texture in Command Center, like the rocks down below eat the whip jumps as well. Do you think it's anything like that, or is this like a relatively, like a slightly different circumstance?
I think it's the same.
Okay.
It's the same circumstance, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm curious why that happens on very specific textures, but
yeah, I have no clue.
Yeah.
Can I take like a 1 minute break? I desperately need a drink of water.
Absolutely. Yeah, do what you gotta do. I can
Cool.
spiel for a little bit while you're doing your thing. Yeah, oh my god, guys, how sick is this? How fucking sick is this? Oh my god. I can't get over it. I mean, like, I feel like I'm a broken record. I just keep talking about how fucking awesome this is. Can I get a 1 in chat if you think that this is, like, the fucking craziest thing you've seen all year? I mean, that's tough competition. It has been a pretty awful year, but, you know, like, you know what I'm trying to say. If you think this is just so... I need to see ones in chat if you were as blown away as I am by this shit. This is so fucking nuts. Listen to your mother. I love my mother. I listen to her as often as I can. I need to finish this first. I'm a journalist, god damn it.
Okay, a comeback in chat is devolved into a basic numeracy.
Oh,
So
I asked them basically I asked them to type 1 if they thought this was the sickest thing they've seen all year. So
thank you so much.
look at our reaction to Zeldrin. Oh, Sneepy wants you to play it. I'll play that later. I wanna get
Oh
through
yeah,
this.
those reactions, I love that. If I ever feel like having like a shit day, I'll just be able to like load that shit up. And
Dude, I can imagine you can eke every little bit out of this high that you've gotten from this for a very long time, and rightfully so. So leading up to this proxy is relatively standard. I actually do want to say, I love, it's such a little thing, but I love that you momentum glide onto the rock there.
Mhm.
I've always kind of wondered if that was a little bit faster than what we currently did.
the trade-off, the trade-off there is, if you decide to like move in a direction after proxying, you don't get as much height, and you lose the momentum. But if you don't press a direction, it's sort of weird, but like as you go up, your vertical momentum decays. And I'm pretty sure the closer it is to 0 when you glide, the more horizontal momentum you get. So
Oh, that's interesting.
at a certain point, it's worth getting more height and then gliding and hitting the wall there.
That's really cool. I'm gonna try to experiment with that when I come back to this category. There's definitely a lot of little stuff that I'm like, you know, obviously the brunt of it, I'm just like, well, that's never fucking happening. But a lot of this, I'm like, yeah, there's like a couple little stuff here that I definitely want to try to incorporate.
So interestingly, I just want to point out at the end of this death course mission, whatever. I forget which vidcomic it is. I think it's vidcomic 2 or 3 that you're picking up there. And normally on PS2, I'm pretty sure people pick that up because it like saves time on the cutscene, and on PS3, you guys just death abuse.
Yes.
In this, there's like a frame or maybe a 2-frame window where you can cutscene skip, and you can get the cutscene skip and get the mission complete, and then because you use the start menu to do the skip, you can also quit. You can also select end mission, because after you hit that trigger, the end mission thing in the start menu goes away. So there's like a frame there where you can quit the mission and also get the trigger, I suppose.
That's kind of serendipitous that all that works so well in tandem with each other.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
I actually did test the getting the vidcomic thing. I tested and it was I can't remember how much slower it was, but it was slower.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. That's
Yeah. Oh yeah, the reason you get vidcomic there is because the little pop-up thing that stops you from entering your ship goes away quicker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Huh. I would have never expected that. So moving through Holostar, you've got some explaining to do here, sir. You have...
So-
What? Okay, so first off, obviously there's this really cool Clank proxy. I'm really glad you were able to incorporate that. That is super cool.
Shout out to Tana. for
Oh, he
putting me
found
onto
that?
I'm not sure he found that, but I was like, I sent him I did like a really like steep corner cut on where the lasers are, and I sent him that, and I'm like, how's this? Any obvious shit you can suggest? And he was like, oh hey, you should look at the proxy. So from the other corner cut, I actually had a way to do scrunchless as like a cycle skip, but the way I was doing it was on the right side of the rail, and what would happen was the laser would hit the end and start coming back towards me, and I'd sort of like glide around it and then back onto the rail. But here it's just, I'm beating it, basically.
That's so sick.
It's like a really careful adjustment of, well, that's a couple of things. So Clank's like, over time hitting his terminal velocity, which doesn't take that long.
Uh-huh.
And as that happens, you're also As that happens and he's moving forward, he's also gaining up to his like, his speed cap or whatever. And so I'm basically very slightly adjusting my angle and camera angle also to get like relative movement on to the camera to sort of stay right on that little bit of geometry there and not fall off. And it took a little bit, but
Wow.
but it's there and it's good. And I have to glide at the end partially to get back up on the platform, but also because I think the laser tagged me if I don't.
Well, let me see what you're talking about here. Oh, yes. Yeah, it will. Yeah. That is, yeah, a lot of people don't know the laser properties super well. It can clip you as you're grabbing the ledge. It can clip you if you're coming up from the ledge at a specific time. On PS3, I think it's actually easier to get up from the ledge and not be clipped by the laser, but obviously that doesn't really matter here. Because first off, you're on PS2, and secondly, I mean, you're barely beating this thing out anyway, and you're not ledge grabbing. That's so crazy. Oh my god, yeah, that Master Race brings up a good point. That literally is like basically Ouya zigzagging. That's so cool.
Well, you're not like getting any extra speed, but you know,
Yeah.
it's close enough.
Yeah, it's like the same concept, just doesn't work the same way. Okay, how in the fuck did you figure out the thing?
Okay, so the thing is, as Talos is jumping up into the air, normally he has like, you hit him with a hit and he does his and he stumbles back or gets knocked back or whatever, and that's what used to lock him against the wall. But as he's jumping up, that doesn't happen.
Okay.
So if you're in contact with this hitbox while you're jumping and he's jumping, then yeah. And there's also something to note here is that before he jumps up, I jump and get hit and trade hits at the same time, so it regrounds Clank so I can jump again. And it gets one extra quick hit in there.
That's
And I actually, you also notice that I hit him twice in one jump here also.
Yes.
And
yeah.
there was a way to do that again that I think I got on accident and it was really hard to reproduce, but the way I did it, I couldn't get insta drop. So insta drop was easier to just push him over.
Wow. So
I'm still not sure if the thing works on PS3, but
Yeah, I've never gotten it on PS3. I've only ever done it on PS2, and I think I obviously just kind of gave up after a certain point because it was just more consistent to just do the normal RTA method and get the insta drop. But that is so sick. I'm so glad that you were able to figure that out over the course of this. I would have never guessed that was what it was. I always thought it was like iframe manipulation of some. Well, I guess that technically is what it is.
Yeah, it is.
But like I thought it was more like missile involved or like damage spot involved. I actually did figure out recently and this has nothing to do with this, but I did figure out recently that the reason why we thought he was getting quote unquote damage gated was just because he was getting sent into iframe by the missiles.
There's a set time.
Yeah.
Of like he can't be hit, and that's the. I mean, theoretically, you could get like the thing. It feels so weird calling it that. Anyway, theoretically, you could get the thing to work on any jump as long as your like hitbox is still active and you're moving into him or whatever. But normally when he's in the air, you're knocking him back. So.
Well,
it's not visible.
As the person who originally coined the thing, since you are the one who solved it, if you want any...
No, it's the thing. Yeah, it's the thing.
Not to give you that sort of burden. This is so cool. I love this. This is such a creative way to do this fight. I would have never... honestly, the thing that surprised me the most was that you got that extra hit. On like you went up, hit him, and then went down, and then hit him again. I thought that was so. I would have never expected that was possible. That is so cool. And then here, I mean,
yeah, this is RTA, whatever.
Yeah, this is relatively standard. I do want to ask about the RTA viability of the wrench swings.
You can just mash it.
You can just mash it. Will that actually is that? Well, I guess I can always just test it on my own.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the amount of height you're getting. I'm not sure if it's. I'm pretty sure it's contingent on how close to the wall you're canceling the charge and proxying.
Okay.
But you can just mash out the wrench swings. The only issue there is like if you accidentally mash out a third one instead of just two, which I did there. but you shouldn't lose too much height if you do the third one. And you get the same amount of, as far as I'm aware, you get the same amount of vertical distance from swinging as you would if you just went up.
Wow.
And yeah, at the ship cutscene at the end of the Hollister section, you can skip the cutscene, but you still have to take the ship entry one. So you know, you may as well just take the cutscene anyway and save it.
Gotcha.
Or save time on it.
Yeah.
You can actually there's like a frame perfect window where you can get the ship cutscene instead of the end of level cutscene. My dog is popping off. Holy shit!
Dude, he thinks the task is sick too.
There's a one frame window where you can hit the ship entry cutscene instead of the end of level 1, but it loses exactly 1 frame.
Huh. Okay. Interesting. Musa, I think it was, said something about hyperstriking is slower. It's not that we knew that hyperstriking wasn't as fast as just dropping. The only problem is that the positioning RTA is very hard to pull off without a hyperstrike. The hyperstrike gives you like critical upwards momentum, or I guess not necessarily upwards momentum, but more so it maintains your forward momentum enough that it just sends you over there very consistently. If you're just dropping down with the charge, if you're angled in a weird way, it's very possible that you just get clipped by the invisible wall, or you just run into the invisible wall and just drop down and just lose the whole run. So just to address that,
give you a little bit of it does give you a little bit of vertical height.
Oh, it does? Okay. That's good to know.
Not much, but enough.
So yeah, it might be worth experimenting just to, eke out that like extra, what is it, like half second or something like that, maybe even less. But, just as an explanation as to why we don't do it right now, Musa. Draco, it's actually really funny. I think people expected this to be more interesting than it ended up being. And I say that with no disrespect intended. Because obviously it's still incredibly cool to see. But I don't know what people were expecting. I think pretty much everyone knew what was going to happen here. Like the 7 midair charges directly to the end of the level.
I did mess around with trying to get Ghost in the first room, and I could get the bots to aggro, but I couldn't get them in range while I hit the mud.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I remember you had that clip of you accidentally hyperstriking through the magnet wall with Ghost Ratchet. I was in a voice call with Sneep and Ricky and some others, and I think some of them were saying, "Oh my god, he's going to do the hyperstrike through the wall."
Yeah, they don't know.
Like, this is mediocre, boring strats. We're just going to charge.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you accidentally let them down, but yeah, I don't think a lot of people knew. I didn't know that at the time that I did have Ghost Ratchet on when I clipped through that. Which obviously, it would be sick if you could take Ghost Ratchet from, laser defense facility to here. I think you actually might even meet it, given the time constraints of what is it, like 3.5 minutes? I think you just barely don't meet it, I think. But yeah, if only you could take it between planets. So it's a moot point anyway that you can't. But yeah, so. Oh yeah,
on the Courtney fight.
Oh, I was gonna say before the Courtney fight, Steepy pointed out that he loves the little the teeny arm breaker that you do right here.
Yeah, I honestly, in retrospect, because I just wait at that edge, I should have just arm break it a bunch more or something. But
oh yeah, so the Courtney fight you were saying.
So like normally you guys try to knock her into like. There's like damage gates or whatever on like knocking her into different phases. So I figured out that the first one there's like a damage gate to knock her into the first phase, but there's also a cap, and the charged shock cannon shot hits the cap, but 2 Rhino shots hits the gate to knock her into the next phase, and I make up the time by Rhino bombing her later anyway. And because I'm hitting the cutscene skip, yeah. But you'll see later you might have noticed with the Clunk fight, I don't go for insta-skip there because it's faster to charge cannon shot as early as possible while going into the cutscene so that I can hit him with the lingering part of the shot after the cutscene finishes and charge up my next shot as soon as possible.
Interesting. Huh.
Oh yeah, shout out to Wiffle's Courtney fight tutorial. I'm using those Pac-Man strats.
I didn't even know he had a Courtney fight tutorial. I'll have to give that a watch at some point. I want
Yeah,
to
dude, he's got the next level Pac-Man strats. I'm not even
Pac-Man
joking.
strats. I'm so
Cool.
curious what that could even possibly mean. Um,
It'll be really obvious once you see the video.
okay. Yeah, it is actually really interesting to see you weave like this to kill the robots, because like there's a certain like the way that I always viewed it RTA, and I'm gonna have to reevaluate after I learn these Pac-Man strats. But I always I personally I always found it was suboptimal to spam the shot cannon like that. But obviously in a task you're hitting everything perfectly, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's just in an RTA
You can release
setting.
the charge. You can start the charge like what is it? One like basically 2 frames after releasing the shot. So like, you release you have 1 frame of you're holding the last frame of the shot being charged, release it, start charging again, and then obviously on the next one you're releasing the charge shot as soon as possible. So
Yeah, and the thing is, in an RTA setting, I personally I discourage people from just spamming the shot cannon over and over, because it's if you precisely time it, and you can more consistently save time on the Courtney fight if you precisely time when you're doing your weaves rather than just spamming it. But again,
doing
that's
your
not an
weave.
issue. Dude. Yeah, dude, fucking hit the whips and the nays during the Courtney fight. Um, but yeah, so it's just really cool to see that, because that also kind of like took me by surprise a little bit. And it was one of those things where I was like, what? And then I was like, oh yeah, TAS.
Yeah. I think it could be optimized, honestly, that fight.
Yeah.
But I'm not really entirely sure how.
Yeah, that is
Probably
definitely
should.
something we've never like truly labbed as a community. Like I've done my own labbing, but I've never compared it against anyone else's numbers. And of course, I mean, here we are. Pretty much everybody who's seen this before, this is their favorite planet in the entire thing. This is so cool. I mean, you already kind of broke this down into a 2-minute video. Is there any other comments or things that you want to note about this whole segment right here?
It was really, really, really annoying. Like I just had the level viewer on a separate screen, and I was like, okay, I had PCSX2 and Cheat Engine, and I have the cheat tables with like tracking everything, like Ratchet's position, and I was like coordinating that with the camera's position in the level viewer, so I could be like, okay, this box is here, this breakable thing is here. Where am I landing? Where do I want to aim for? And like trying to just desperately coordinate this shit. But yeah, it all worked out. I think it could be optimized a little bit, but I don't really. I'm not entirely sure how.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I really. That's like I think that's my favorite split. One of them at least.
Yeah, I mean, that deservedly so, right? It's just so fucking cool looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, Musa, it doesn't save much time compared to Ghost Ratchet, but it is still faster.
Saves. I should record and upload the version of that uses Ghost Ratchet. I think I have the file still.
Oh, that'd be really sick.
Yeah, it saves like half a second over doing that strat with Ghost Ratchet, and like some other time compared to the other strats.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna jinx myself sneezing again by saying I'm gonna sneeze, and then I'm not gonna sneeze, and it's all gonna work out fine.
What's
I
the
don't have to
thing?
sneeze.
What's the thing people always say? Like you have to look into a light if you want to sneeze. Like if you want your sneeze to come out. I don't know if that'll help or not, but that's the superstition. That's the old wives' tale.
Helping.
Well, I'm
Old
sorry.
wives were wrong.
As they usually are. 52 or higher. I think Nano said that he needed to beat, without Ghost Ratchet, he needed to beat a mid 52.
Something like that.
Is somewhere around that in order for it to be faster to die and then reload or whatever or what have you, whatever the comparison was. So yeah, that is actually the fastest way to do it, believe it or not. Sneeze cancel it. Oh my god.
I think the normal route could be optimized, but also the one I used could also be optimized. I'm in the end I'm not sure, but that was just from what I tested. It was
Yeah.
the
It's just so interesting to hear you say that things can be optimized because you're operating on such a different level than everyone else when you're saying I need to optimize this. I love that like that it doesn't give you any actual forward positioning, but I do love that you charge out of that VidConvict skip sequence.
What do you mean that it isn't like the little one in between the cutscene and the skip?
Yes, like
Yeah.
the
Yeah, it
scene
doesn't-
plays and you charge forward like halfway down the hallway, or oh no, that does put you a little bit further, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
The first one it doesn't really save any time because the way it cancels your momentum with lock strafe, it sort of just moves you back towards the vid comic thing anyway.
yeah.
But after that, the second charge definitely saves time.
Yeah, I didn't notice. I thought it kind of put you further back into the room than I expected. But yeah, that's super cool. Oh my god.
Lock strafe charge is doable RTA. Maybe. I mean, essentially, it's just mashing charge out of like the direction change. It's essentially the same as direction changing into a charge, but because it's lock strafe, you can set your camera independently of where you're moving.
Oh my god, dude. I have a very big soft spot for this Metropolis because it's just like, you know, a lot of you guys, you haven't seen the full history of how many times Metropolis has been rerouted and just when we think we've got it all figured out, someone comes in and is like, oh, this actually saves half a second. We have to redo the whole thing. This is a totally different route than anything that is possible RTA. Like, this is just so wild. Oh my god, I love that proxy off of that building after the triple long, or what is it? You long jump, side flip into long jump, into long jump, into long jump, into proxy, and that's not a weapon swap proxy. That's just that's the squonk like one frame, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow, that's so cool. So into a one frame proxy, wrench swing, immediately cancel. Oh, I see why now. Because you need to be able to insta whip out of that. So you can't proxy with the normal method of shock cannon into turret. You have to do the squonk method so that you can insta whip into the cutscene trigger for Clunk. That's so cool. So, is there anything special that you're doing here for these? Obviously, you're firing the shock cannon as you're entering the Clunk fight. How are you charging this so quick?
Oh, it's just the frame after you release the last shot, you start charging the next one.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was a thing that was even doable. So I guess like now I'm thinking like, you know, when we're really, really optimizing this game, you're gonna actually have to focus on how quickly you like release and repress circle when you're shock cannon. Oh my god, I would have never even thought of that. And here I was just taking my dear sweet time, losing like 20 frames. God, I feel so stupid now. That's so cool though. Wow, and then this backtrack is again, I hate to call anything in this standard. Another squonk midair proxy into pretty much the same movement, but just done in reverse. This is so
that backtrack
cool.
was nightmarish, honestly. There's like some areas in the game where, because the sort of your I guess for people in chat who don't know what like culling is, the game will like try to not render stuff that's outside the camera, and also in addition to that, the devs explicitly like programmed areas so that if you're in them, other stuff in the level will just not exist, I suppose, or will not be visual of. If you're in certain areas in the level, other stuff will not be visible to save on computation. But because I'm in somewhere that I'm not really supposed to be, the game's just like a horrible laggy mess a bit. So some of that was like, there was like some weird neutral long jumps where I was trying to do, or long jump chains where they just wouldn't work because the game was rendering every other frame instead of 60, and it would like fuck with my inputs.
That's actually wild. I would have never expected that was a huge problem for you. Like out of all the things in this task, I mean, I'm sure you know.
Issue here.
Yeah.
It was an issue on Hideout, and those were the
Really?
main two.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like the core cutscene on Hideout, I didn't skip. I'm not actually sure if it's possible. If it is possible, I know the cutscene's different. It's not like an explicit trigger. It's like a radius from Quark, and you have to be on the ground. You can't be charging or in midair. So I couldn't find a way to skip that. Also because like the amount of lag there is just like unbearable. Yeah, there's
yeah. I love that Scrunch. So, why is he there? Is there any particular reason?
Insta skipping messes with the flags for the level. You get coordinates for stuff, but it doesn't update stuff like other stuff. So I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly which cutscene it's tied to. I think it's taking Quark to his cage. But yeah, insta skipping that means you get the bridge thing to activate, but Scrunch doesn't update his position.
Wow.
So.
That's really interesting. Of all things,
which I mean,
Scrunch.
functionally makes no difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Thankfully, otherwise it would have been like a nightmare.
That is really funny though, and I do love that that is the Scrunch that spawns after you're done with Florana as well. Like he's clearly running toward Ratchet's room. I think that's funny. Like there's probably a joke in there somewhere about how like, Scrunch is still trying to race you to the room, but and here you are 15 minutes later. And you're like, all right, see you later, Scrunch. That's super cool, though. Yeah, so Crash Site. Honestly, like, was there anything super interesting about Crash Site? It does, again, I keep calling things standard when they're not, like, crazy outside the box. But it doesn't seem like there's anything too colossally, like, there's no real Oh, actually, the one thing I did want to point out, I loved how creative this like falling off and re-landing on the platform was. Is it that?
Oh, it doesn't do it. It doesn't actually do anything.
Oh, it doesn't. Okay, I thought that was like maybe like a weird like I was getting like what is it, like rack 1 gas bar midair vibes when you're going to the gold bolt, like how you like reset yourself to get enough distance and speed with your midairs to make it to the gold bolt platform. Nice calls. Yo, thanks, Musa. Yeah, that I thought there was something interesting going on there, but so was there any particular reason why you did that?
No, I was just like getting to the right position, and I like nearly fell off, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I may as well just keep that in there.
Well, you properly debated me.
Yeah. On the note, I did something similar on Arcadia actually. On I think it was mission 2. Something worth noting there is I did the first whip jump hyperstrike list.
Yeah,
and it actually only saves a tiny bit of time because if you're like preserving your momentum out of the jump, you keep going straight forward when you want to turn left. But if you let your momentum go and try and double jump, it's slow. The hyperstrike is only slightly slower, but because the benefit is that you can change your direction to be like facing the platform and just jump from there.
Yeah.
And also the whip to the
that's
falling box.
Wow, that's actually so creative. I can't believe I missed that the first time around. That is V8 or V5 plus whip is actually optimal then.
I don't know if not destroying the middle crate like makes a difference in terms of time.
That's super cool though. I mean, if nothing else, it looks fucking awesome. That is super cool. And then the backtrack itself is that, I mean, it's obviously very visually pleasing to look at. I love this the proxy that you do here as well.
That was sort of annoying to get done correctly actually, because jumping from like where the ship ends and there's the gap in the goop, and then there's the middle platform and then the other side, right?
Yeah.
And you in RTA runs, you move to like the far left side of the edge of the ship to jump to the middle section, because otherwise you don't get enough height. So it was like sort of difficult trying to get a proxy angle that also lets me get enough like speed and distance to also cross that gap like easily.
That's really sick looking though. I love how the creativity that opens up with directional changing neutral long jumps being such a viable option in TAS. It's so stunning to see, because I can't think of any way RTA to make that viable aside from like wrench swing, which obviously loses a shit ton of momentum. Yeah. I mean, like,
well, I mean, there is a way, but it'd be like hard to do. The direction changing stuff is like, good luck.
I mean, yeah, like how many times are you pulling that off per 100 attempts? Like, it's just minuscule.
Probably none.
Yeah,
Sneepy, what did you talk about? One sec. Sneepy's haranguing me in chat.
as per the usual.
Insta skipping the cutscene at the end. Oh yeah, I think I mentioned it, but yeah, insta skipping the cutscene at the end of Crash Site stops the ship from defaulting to Iridia.
That is so
I
cool.
think I mentioned it.
You
Already.
did
Yeah.
mention that, but that's cool to just like hear. I like that makes no sense to me. And so like
It's just to do with the game flags. Like I know, I think the dev commentary that I was rewatching a little bit helped a little bit with that. But the devs basically had like a um, missions had like a certain priority, so your ship would always obviously default to whichever one had the highest priority.
yeah.
And because you're skipping, insta skipping the cutscenes, the mission flags don't update, so you're stuck with like an older mission that has a higher priority, and so it just defaults to what you want, or something like that. I can't remember.
Wow.
I think if you looked at the missions at the end of Command Center, you'd see like a bunch of. Actually, I will open up emulator and I will play through. I will just open up the start of like launch site and I will check which missions I have just to humor.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can keep going.
No, for sure. Yeah. I
Also,
know.
hi Zem's mom.
Yeah. Shout outs to my mom in chat. Everybody say hi to my mom if you haven't already. Jan0412 is my mother. But yeah, God, I can't believe that. That's just like so. So I couldn't hear it because there's usually a lot of noise happening at once anyway in these tasks.
There we go. Oh, shit,
But
I think
oh, sorry. Were you saying something?
no, we're all good.
Okay.
I just had to plug in my PS5 controller and the sound dropped out for like a couple seconds. It's all
Gotcha.
good.
Does that the mission flagging thing? Does that work for the other planets as well, or is it just Iridia? Because I imagine it doesn't really matter either way. It's just a like frames of inputs, but
It's all the planets. Like
Really?
I mentioned that there's another planet where I have to take I basically have to change which planet I'm going to. I have to change which
oh, Nan, are you there?
planet I'm going to. Okay, there we go. One sec. So let me look at the missions real quick. I'm gonna have to like scroll down all the way. So I'm pretty sure I still have almost every single mission in the game besides Gemini because I didn't skip the cutscene at the end of Gemini, and Phoenix Rescue for some reason is complete. But I still have the missions for Metropolis. That's the mission. I still have the missions for Veldon. Because obviously I skipped the cutscenes there. Like that's just the basic one. Florana, I still have to find Quark. I still have to beat Quark. I still have to do Right Side Dax. I still have to do Annihilation Nation. I have to get the Tira guys, obviously. I have to go rescue or find out what happened to Skid at Holostar. I have to take the ship with Quark at Zeldin Starport. I have to do VidComics. Chorus because I skipped the cutscene. It's the BFG still there, and then obviously by Obliterator on Command Center.
That is so insane. I
Super.
wow. That's another one of those
I'm gonna
things.
unplug the controller real quick, so I won't be able to hear you for like 2 seconds.
No, that's okay.
Okay, there we go. We're good.
Yeah, I that's one of those things. If you had never pointed it out, I would have never figured that out in a million years. That's how that worked. That is so interesting.
I actually gave myself a panic attack at the end of Dax, and I was like, "Wait, did I not get the trigger for Nation?" And I was,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
actually, it's fine.
Wow, that's super. Wow. Okay. Well, here on, I know this was also a bit of a headache for you, Quark's Hideout, because I know you were trying to figure out like so many different fascinating routes, and they all ended up being slower. Not to say that this is boring. It's just that obviously, compared to your proxy routes, your other cool stuff you were trying to do, it just obviously doesn't, stack up to as much.
So yeah, proxy's slow, obviously. There's a way to skip a hyperstrike at the start of the level, but you need because charge canceling into movement is like less than the speed cap, and Grand LJs are like they move to the speed cap. Grand LJs can do it, but obviously manuing is slow. And what else did I? Oh yeah, so the reason I was like I messed around with left side a bit, but the reason right side of the Quark's like the end level thing works is because the collision geometry sort of extends past where the snow is. like and basically goes up to the edge of the building where you can stand, but on the
Okay.
left side it doesn't.
Huh.
It's sort of weird like that. Like there's like on the right side, you can see the the snow sort of tongue twisters. You can see the snow sort of slope up a bit towards the edge of the building.
Yeah.
But the collision actually goes like higher than that slope. On the left, it doesn't though, so you can't do it.
Huh. Wow. Yeah, I knew that there was some interesting stuff happening there texturally, because I know you can, like, you know, hide Ratchet in the snow or whatever. Like, there, a lot of it is, like, unloaded textures. That is kind of cool to know.
Unloaded textures isn't the right term, but it's like the textures, the textures aren't matched up with the collision.
Gotcha. Okay,
Is
yeah.
probably what you're looking for.
That is. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, and Persona. You were talking about how I got the. I think what was it? Let me scroll up. It was talking about asking how I got the right angle out of. What did you do to position yourself coming out of the court cutscene, way off where you trigger it? I'm assuming you're referring to the angle coming out of that cutscene, and I think I just held back for like 4 frames or something. I'm pretty sure that is the default position after the cutscene.
Oh, yes.
The angle,
yeah, that definitely is.
Yeah, the angle I just ended up. I think it was like back right. I held for like a couple frames before charging, so I could get the right angle.
Yeah, people usually just hold a direction there and then just end up in any random spot. Like, not any random spot. They start in the same position, but then they obviously move depending on what they're holding. But yeah, everybody starts in that exact same spot. Yeah, that's really cool. 4 frames is all it takes to completely reposition Ratchet. That's really interesting. I loved Phoenix Rescue here. I loved, like, when I forget who it was who said it, but somebody said that you literally just went in a straight line. And, like, straight line here, and then you get to the end, and then you just straight line back. Like, almost no deviation whatsoever, aside from, like, a couple side flips.
Yeah.
That's
so
so
the
interesting.
reason, a couple things. I'm getting a couple crates there because Haida actually used up more turret ammo than I was expecting. So I needed to pick up ammo for the 1 proxy on Chorus and the 3 on Command Center.
I didn't even notice that. That's so cool. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
well, it's Korean, so you can't really tell as well, but yeah. So that lost, I think, maybe 4 frames compared to just going straight. And there is another strat where you can, like, you know how on normal, like, VR skip segment, you basically, like, clip through the wall. You can also clip underneath the bridge from, like,
Yes.
where the edge of the carrier thing is there. And that saves also, like, 2 frames over just going straight to the edge. But the main thing was you needed to be in the right position. And if I was mega flipping to get ammo, I couldn't. And also, I was having a lot of difficulty getting a cutscene skip off that, so...
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of people don't know that you actually can clip under. RTA, it is rather difficult to clip under there, but it's still possible, given the right...
it's not actually that possible, but it's not that impossible, but yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's almost... you have to...
Technically, there's no collision on some of the back faces of that, of like, on the ground where the carrier platform normally meets, like the edge of the end of that segment, the little bits of wall that are like facing you actually don't have any collision.
Okay.
So, but which normally isn't a problem because like the difference in height where those walls are is like so small that you just walk up them anyway. But if you with the right position and momentum and charge cancel, you can just go under. So sort of similar deal to VR skip where going underneath saves time, but I couldn't get it to work or I needed to do something else.
Yeah, that's fair. Koros, I actually really loved how, like, specific you got with your positioning getting up the wall. Like, I mean, that obviously you have to be very specific about this, but I love that, like, you land on, like, the very, very, like, is that the last possible piece of texture you can even land on there? Like on that little bridge?
It's close enough. There's the way like changing the direction of like long jumps and stuff, as far as I can tell, works is like the longer you hold you sort of, if not exponentially, then like quadratically, you're hopefully I'm not like
like mathing people away from this fucking stream.
No, you're good. You're good.
But like the longer you hold, the further you go in whatever direction, right? So like if you hold like right for 1 frame, you'll move a little bit. 2 frames, like more than twice that, further and further and further, right? So getting like exactly extremely precise direction changes on like stuff like long jump angles is a little bit annoying. I think you could cut it slightly further, like to the right on that like positioning on the bridge part there, but I think it's close enough.
Yeah, I also
There's also a point. There's also a point at which like it's almost functionally identical. Like the charge boots in some cases, where you're just charging straight to a trigger, but you have like a slight angle. Like changing your angle doesn't actually do anything. You're still hitting the trigger at the same point, basically.
Mm-hmm. I have to say something that I was, and not that I wasn't listening to your explanation. I just don't really know what else to say because it's a very thorough explanation of what's happening. I had like a moment in my brain just now, literally just watching this Koros, that I think probably most people who ever watch a task of their game probably feel at some point, which was just the overwhelming. I don't want to call it despair because I'm not. There's nothing about this that makes me feel bad. I mean, it's just fucking awesome through and through. But the idea of like, I will never be able to do this. Like, as cool as this is and as fast as this is, like I kind of understand why some people say that what it's almost like how and I hate to pull a chess analogy into this because I feel like people are gonna make fun of me for mentioning chess. But like when I forget if it was Kasparov or somebody else who lost to a supercomputer and was like,
I think I've seen the image of that.
Yeah,
it's a meme image of his face after versing something blue. I can't remember.
Deep Blue. Yeah, but I'm not 100% sure if it was that one. I remember there was, or rather, I'm not 100% sure if it was Kasparov who said it, but I remember there was some top level chess player, like around the advent of computer. Supercomputers taking over the chess world, that was like, I don't see the point in playing chess competitively when we will always be inferior to machines. And again, I don't think that was Kasparov, but I think there was somebody else who was a prominent chess figure. But like I got like a small a small little thought in my head right now that was very similar, just like, wow, is there really a point? Which, of course, that's a very fleeting thought that went away very quickly. But I think that if you can watch something like this without questioning if what you're doing is actually worth it, I don't think you're really human. And if nothing else, I really hope that this inspires people to not just try to use this as a template of strats that we could implement more RTA, but to do even more task work.
I think there's always a feeling of that, though. Like, you look at I'll bring up like a bunch of examples. You look at like Smash Brothers Melee players who don't play Spaceys or like play a mid tier.
Yeah.
And it's just like 20XX comes along, everyone's playing Spaceys, and it's just like, why do I bother?
Yeah.
Or like I make tech and combo videos also, and like I see like Savage Ogre or TMDO2 make something just like completely mind blowing, and I'm like, why do I do this?
Yeah.
What am I doing? Or something like that. But like at the end of the day, especially with this, and especially with chess, I mean, chess is more understandable because I don't want to say the game is simpler than Ratchet and Clank 3 speedruns, but in terms of like your functional outputs, the outputs of your inputs and like the amount of like relative complexity of stuff, it is more complex.
Yes,
but it's obviously not a competitive game.
Yeah, in the very literal sense, this is.
Yeah, you shouldn't set a task as your goal. Like it's not the same thing.
Yeah, because I even remember, I mentioned this before I watched the task, but people were like obviously trying to predict times of what this was going to be, and I said I think this is going to be somewhere between 20 and 21 minutes, and people were like, really? I was like, yeah, like this shit is gonna be fucking crazy. You guys, like, I couldn't even imagine what I couldn't imagine, and I've put more man hours of speedrunning into this game than pretty much anyone else on the planet, and I was still like, I have no idea what the fuck to expect. Like, the level of sheer insanity that you've been able to pull off this whole run so far. I mean, once again, I have to commend you for it, because I know that on your end, it probably just seems like the result of countless hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of work over the course of many years. But to us, it just looks like, voodoo Wiccan magic. Like, it really does look like otherworldly watching this shit.
I don't know about like 1,000 or whatever it was, like 1,000 hours, honestly. Like, I mean, considering the work I sort of did in optimizing a lot of early stuff and getting familiar with the game over time, is worth, I think, important considering. But like, I no lifed it for the last 2 months, except when Tekken got an update, like in November, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll put out a combo video. No, but yeah, so I was doing like maybe 6 hours per day on average or something of just like, I need to get this done, I need to get this done. You'll have been waiting too long. I've been saying I'd do it, and then I didn't do it. I may as well just, I'll get this shit done.
Well, not to, I have some things to ask and say at the very end of this to you and ask of you, I suppose. But yeah, I do want to get through, obviously, the big one that everyone is definitely... If you haven't seen this at some point, you haven't been watching much Ouya. Obviously, Epic is coming up here now. Is there anything that you do differently here that we don't already know about as far as Epic is concerned? It seems to be pretty standard as far as Epic goes.
For the most part, it's like mostly standard. I think users version glided at the end or something. So generally, it's just more optimized. There is one thing at the charge into the wall. So like the wall on the like right side of the level, like it looks like it stops at some point and has like a like it recedes back before going into the ground. But really, the collision there goes all the way down.
Interesting.
So the main thing, I suppose, was I started charging a little bit further back on the ship, which meant that I was losing less height, and so I could hit the wall at a slightly higher position.
Okay.
And, like saved a tiny bit of time. But
that's
like
really cool.
Besides that, it's just like big optimals.
Wow.
Big optimization.
And then the Nefarious fight. I mean, a lot of people have never seen this before, but all the old boys who played back when PS2 was considered optimal. I mean, we've all seen this at least once. I'm so glad you're able to replicate this. So what exactly is going on here? How does this work? So obviously the nano pack is saving you at a certain point. But how, like, where is the goings on of that? Like, what you go?
Honestly, that's about as much as I know. I don't actually know the exact point at which it triggers, because I need to like I need to like bring up launch site in the level editor real quick. But yeah, it's basically you die and the nano pack saves you at a certain point, and it just deloads Neffy's AI. Or whatever for that, which obviously means that Tony Garcia, the man himself who programmed this boss, made a mistake. No, it's fine. But yeah, there's no... interestingly, there's no... like, looking in the level editor, there's no explicit, like, trigger volume for this section. There's no big cube that the devs went and said, okay, you enter here, Neffy triggers. Like, I think it's... I'm pretty sure it's just like a distance from a point check or something. Yeah. So yeah, you die at a certain point, and the nanopack saves you, and Neffy, the cutscene doesn't trigger.
That does make sense, because I know that we recently, well, it wasn't a very recent thing, but I know that we did affirm our suspicions within the last, I want to say year and a half, that holding forward on command center or during that free fall section activates the cutscene a little I think almost a full second earlier. So yeah, the distance to a point does sound right, at least knowing what I know of the thing. So that is kind of cool. I wonder if it's just like you have to hit on a specific missile or what have you, but I imagine it's relatively easy to try to replicate that.
I copied not copied, but like user did a RTA thing of trying to get this, and so I was just looking at like which missiles he got hit by and trying to work that out to some extent. yeah, and I guess it just I was just messing around with it and it ended up working at some point. I just rolled with it. And someone in chat asked what the weird thing is behind Neffy. That's like his like command module thing that he has going on.
Yeah.
Which in the cutscene, Ratchet's like, no, screw you, and he just throws his wrench at it and destroys it.
I always love how comical it is that Ratchet's wrench in cutscenes is like the most broken thing ever. Like,
Yeah.
and then obviously this is pretty much. I imagine what we see is what we get here, where you're firing as soon as possible and then triple swapping.
This was a bit of a nightmare just dealing with lag here.
Oh,
So
I
you'll
can
notice
imagine.
some shots are like slightly delayed or seem to come quicker. That's because I'm like trying to deal with the game lagging. But for the most part, it's like consistent-ish and it saves time.
Wow. Well, once again, congratulations on an incredible task. I mean, I said it before, but I want to say it to you directly that this is legitimately. I mean, obviously, again, I'm extremely biased by saying this, but this is legitimately one of the most impressive tasks, period. I mean, at least that I've ever seen. I don't know about the rest of you guys. Maybe you have different opinions, but I don't care about any of them. This is my opinion.
My stream. Your opinion's not allowed.
Yeah, I've got the mic. I just want to, again, I want to just say, like, I'm personally, I know that, like, we've had a long history, you and I, as well as just you and I in this community. We've had a very long history up until this point, but I do want to say I'm so happy that I'm able to see this and witness it and commentate on it and have you here talking about it. I'm so happy that you finally were able to get it done. I'm so glad that, we finally have a source of I don't want to call this a starting point because I feel like that diminishes how incredible this is. But
oh, it's totally. I don't know whoever's gonna task this game again at some point. I probably won't, honestly. After doing that, I'll probably, if I do anything, I might be wrecked too. But
I was gonna ask actually, do you have any other like wish list categories that you would want?
My wish list category right now is to take a nice long break over Christmas, and I'll reassess my options after that.
I think that's perfectly fine. I really I understand. Whenever I hit a goal time in a category, and people are like, "What are you doing next?" I'm like, "Can I please just like enjoy this for a day?" Like, so yeah, I don't want to force an answer out of you here, but I mean, thank you so much for being here, man. Do you have any final comments, any final shout outs on your end, anything else that you wanted to say before we part ways here?
I wanted to chat asked a couple questions. Someone asked what kind of emulator. It's a PCSX2. That's a PS2 emulator. It has task tools. It has for a while now. I shouted out XTVesa in the credits because he's, as far as I'm aware, the main dude working on developing and maintaining those. So, yeah. And someone else asked how much the dev commentary helped. I'm not sure if I can quantify it so much as like I just think it gave me a better understanding of the game in a general way. I think probably the Ratchet community's like Q&A thing with Mike Stout like 4 years ago at this point probably helped more. But yeah, it's always really nice to have like extra insight into how shit works.
Yeah.
So yeah, where did I get the BIOS for Ouya? Ouya doesn't have a BIOS. I don't know what you're talking about. It actually doesn't have a BIOS. The ISO, I got from a friend who had the cooking copy.
Yeah.
Who I shouted out in the credits. It's INSO.
Oh, okay. I was wondering. I saw that you gave massive shout outs to INSO. I was wondering what that was all about. Yeah, right here. And massive, extra, big, special thanks to INSO. I miss INSO. Is he still alive? What is he doing?
He's still. It's fucking morbid. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Well, hopefully this will at least unearth him from whatever slumber he's in. But yeah, dude, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. I'll let you go get some sleep. I'm sure you're fucking exhausted.
It's been my pleasure. It's been a ton of fun, and I'm surprised I'm feeling less tired than I thought I'd be. But I hope everyone in chat enjoyed this like impromptu breakdown. I'll probably make a commentary or something.
Yeah, please do. Please do. Sure. That would be really
420
really
was not intentional, Venus. but I'll fucking take it. Oh, it takes 16 shots, whatever.
Yeah.
I also think Sneep asked something about like 15 shots being possible. I think it might be, but you need like a really specific position on where you are and the way the Biobliterator is facing, so you maybe get like multiple hits. I'm not sure. I didn't test that enough.
Yeah, I know it's happened like a couple times in the history of this game, but usually I mean, nobody's ever done it intentionally, I don't think. But yeah, of course, you know, while you're, everybody make sure that you go, if you enjoyed this video, I'm going to put the link in again. You please, you know, we can really populate this thing. I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not, but impressions on videos don't take unless you watch 15 or more seconds of it. So if you can do us all a favor, if you guys, obviously liking the video helps a lot, subscribing to Nano obviously helps him as well if you want to go ahead and do that. If you guys can just, at the very bare minimum, watch 15 seconds of this. I know that's a tough ask for something as boring as this. But yeah.
Just find a load. Just find a load, whatever. What a load, who cares?
But yeah, thank you once again, Nano. It's been such a pleasure, and I really cannot commend you enough for this. I hope that you enjoy a nice long break after this arduous task.
Thanks very much. It's been my pleasure also, I suppose.
Of course, dude. All right, have a good nap, or well, I guess it's sleep or nap. I don't know which one it is for you, but go enjoy some rest.
Yeah, you enjoy your Detective Weeb Simulator.
Of course, dude. Of course. All right, have a good one, Nano.
You too.
Wow. Well, that was really